we want to welcome Novi High School head varsity baseball coach Rick Green. Coach Green has been coaching at Novi since 2000 and amassed over 500 wins along the way. He's a Michigan Coaching Hall of Famer. In this past season, he's coming off of a Michigan Division I baseball title, the first in the history of Novi High School baseball. But he's not just getting it done in the dugout. He's blasted his way to a career .401 batting average and a 56-15 pitching record in the Detroit MSBL. So he's getting it done on the field also.
Oh, no, I hope nobody's going to look at those stats.
We're digging up all the dirt.
All right. Welcome, Coach.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, so obviously you had a great season this year, and we'll get to that in a minute. But could you just walk us through a little bit about your kind of growing up and how you got the love for baseball and for coaching?
Yeah, it all started way back when I was like 7 years old. My grandfather took me and my brother to free bat day at Tiger Stadium. And I got Norm Cash's bat. My brother got Al Kaline, and Norm Cash was like my favorite. And talk about somebody that loved the game. That man loved the game like probably better than anybody. He always had a smile on his face. So I think that's where the passion came from. I mean, I took that bat, went in the alley, and started hitting the ball around, put a ball through the guy's garage door window in the alley. So, yeah, that's how it first started. And then growing up in Detroit, east side of Detroit.
Whereabouts? What crossroads?
Like Connors and Mack, where Mansfield was. And, like Warren and Forest, those type of roads over there. But, yeah, that's where I grew up. And all you really had to do back in those days was play baseball. You got up. You went to the school and played some baseball. You got some kids together. You rode your bikes to the field, Hosmer Elementary. I can remember the school still. And heck, back in those days, I think we all put. You guys probably too young, but we would put baseball cards on our spokes with the clothespins.
Oh yeah,
guys, remember that?
I remember that.
So. Okay, so you're not too young. All right, but that's how we, going up there in the morning playing ball till it was lunchtime, going back, until dinner time, and going back until it got dark. So that's where the love of the game came from. And, of course, listening to Ernie Harwell at night, walking down the streets of Detroit, it just echoed through the neighborhood. So, yeah, and baseball has always been big in Detroit. So when you grow up there, that's pretty much where the love and the passion came from.
So how did you get into coaching? What made you go the coaching route?
Well, I played my high school ball at Wallig Western, and I can remember we were, I think us and Plymouth Canton were 7. I think they were undefeated. I think we were like 8-1, something like that. 7-1, 8-1, something like that. I figured we played them a doubleheader. We beat them. We're in good shape to win our division. Well, we went out there. We got our butts handed to us. We wound up losing like 15-2 and 17-3 or something like that. And it was like, gosh, how do we make this team better? And I don't know. I can remember driving home on the bus that day saying, I want to be a coach someday. I want to make this area of baseball better all the way around. So. It all started back in high school is when I started thinking about it, even though it didn't really happen until I turned 36 years old. So,
was that the pre-Chuck APAP years?
That was, yep. That was a pre-Chuck APAP, and they won it in '84, I believe, right? So, yeah. They were like a 500 team, and
they had a magical little run there in the.
They did. Yep. They had one kid. I think his name was Mike Gabriel, I believe, or something like that. Probably about your guys' age, probably. And they went all the way that year. That was amazing. Yep, I still see that sign out there, state champions, when I drive by there. So, yep.
It's still there.
So then, 2000, you got the job at Novi. Did you coach before 2000?
Well, I played. I've been playing baseball. When I turned 18, I never played college baseball, but I loved the game so much, so I kept playing. I got in the printing industry after high school. And had a lot of time to play baseball after I saw some guys working out at Wall Lake Central one day. And I said, hey, where are you guys playing at? You look like you're having a practice out here. And they said, yeah, why don't you come out here and try it? So I grabbed my glove, went out there, and I played in Pontiac Class A ball from the time I was 18 all the way till I was too old to play there anymore. I was 32 or something like that. So then when I turned 30, I also played in the Detroit MSBL, and I'm still playing in Detroit MSBL today, if you can believe it. At, what am I, 55 years old, something like that.
Oh, that's great.
65, I know.
So then you took over at Novi. And,
I took over at Novi in 1996, I became the freshman coach there. There was a gentleman that was AD. His name was John Fundukia. He was a teacher of mine at Wally Western, and my mom saw an article in the spinal column out in Union Lake. You guys might be familiar with the spinal column.
Yeah, the now defunct spinal column.
It is? That's
Isn't
sad.
that sad?
That's sad because that's been around for years.
Yeah, absolutely.
So my mom saw an article in the paper, and he said, hey, the teacher's or the AD's name's John Fundukia. And I thought, you know what, I always wanted to get into coaching, and that's how it started. I went and interviewed, and I became the freshman coach for 3 years, JV for 1 year, and then 2000, that's when I took over the varsity team.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of went the progression that the players go: freshman, then JV, and then varsity. So.
Correct. Yep, just like the players do. Yep, and that's funny they say that because some of the kids that I was coaching had to move up with me every year.
Yeah.
So they were like, oh, I'm stuck with this guy again.
I better start listening to him then.
That's right.
So now, obviously, again, we'll get to the this magical year you had this past season, but from 2000 to now, can you give us some of the similarities, the things that remain true about coaching then and now, and then some of the things that maybe have changed or are different, and that maybe there are some challenges that you have that you didn't have back then?
Yeah, I think the number one thing is the kids love to have fun, and that's why they're all there. And I always tell the kids, well, winning's more fun than losing, correct? Because I can remember losing those games to Canton like it was yesterday. So that's the thing that I can remember back then. Back then, I could throw the baseballs and the bats out and the gloves out, and they would have a riot. Now it's a little more difficult as far as training. We got all these indoor facilities that we're going up against, and summer teams that we're kind of going against. So it's kind of hard to work with the kids in the winter. Back in 2010, let's say 2009, when I first started working, I started earlier than that, but it was pretty easy to work with your own guys. Now your own guys are going to see other coaches, other trainers, and that's probably the most difficult thing, is trying to schedule time to work with your kids in the off season, like right now, this time of year. And so your pitchers are working with your philosophy versus somebody else's philosophy, and sometimes that can be a disruption.
I was just going to say, what kind of conflicts does that bring now that you have your philosophy, and now you're dealing with all these different other training philosophies from all these other coaches?
Yeah, the thing is, it's just the timing of when we're going to throw our guys. When the season starts on March 11th this year, it's going to be they're not training with those guys, so it's going to be our way. But we just hope that we're kind of close. All of us trainers are pretty much the same. We just verbalize a little bit different at times, and we do things a little bit different. And as long as his summer coach, the kid's summer coach, is on the same page as me, I think I'm all right with it. I'm getting used to it now, but it took a while, but it's starting to get used to it. There's some kids that are coming to Novi this year I haven't even seen yet this year, and that doesn't sit the greatest with me, but I'm starting to understand it more.
So let's talk about this magical run you had this year. It was the first one in championship for Novi, the school. So congratulations on that. And it seemed like you had a heck of a playoff run, obviously. So take us back on a couple of blips on the way that either some hurdles you had to overcome, or some things that sparked your team and got you going. Some of the memories that stuck out from this season.
Yeah, everything wasn't going perfect. It's always hard to get off to a good start when you got teams like Brighton and Heartland and teams like that you're playing. And if your pitchers aren't ready, we go on spring break and they come back and they're like off for like what 6, 7, 8 days, So that always makes it tough in the beginning, and that kind of got us off to a slow start. I think we were 500 for the most part, 7-7 in our division. So that but we kind of worked through it. We had a couple of dugout things that weren't going perfect, and I had some good close talks to a lot of our guys, and I think that helped us out somewhat. I can remember we beat Canton 6-0, and there were some guys that were kind of like being individuals and saying, how come we're doing this? How come we're doing that? Well, when you're up 4-0 and you put a couple new guys in, you want everybody to feel part of the team, right? So, but when you're up 4-0 and Andrew Abler is pitching like he was pitching, I knew basically the game was over. And the guys that we have on the bench, I expect them to play just as well as the guy that came out of the game. And that's my expectations of them. And we were pretty solid 1 through 15 or whatever we had last year, and a couple of guys that we brought up back and forth from JV last year. So I had a lot of confidence in those kids, even if they do get in. I want everybody to feel a part of it. So I had to straighten that out. I didn't feel good going home with a 6-0 win over Canton, who we haven't beaten in probably 3 or 4 years, something like that. So, I mean, when you win 6-0 over Canton, you should be smiling going home. But when I had some of the comments that I got driving home, it wasn't a very good drive home.
Yeah, my personal thought is if you've got a roster spot and someone's taking it, they've got to have a role.
Right.
Otherwise,
right.
What's the reason for having it on the team? So,
that's right, Dave. Yep.
Sounds like you got to go through some of that, straighten some of the guys out, it sounds like.
You do have to sometimes, and I think we had a good talk that day.
So we were talking about some of the sparks for the season.
Yeah, the sparks that we had for the season, I thought one of the biggest ones was when we were playing Canton, and we were down 2-1 at their place. And it was getting kind of a dark night, and the score was 2-1 their lead, and I want to say it was the top of the 6th inning. And we had Trevor Reed comes up to the plate with, I think there was 1 on and 2 outs. And he had the greatest at bat. He fouled pitches off. He worked his way. I think he was down early in the count, worked his way to, 2-2, then fouled off a couple more, and then worked his way to 3-2. Then 3-2 pitch. You heard a crack of the bat. And I still see pretty good, but you could hardly see the ball going up into the gray sky. And I knew he hit it well, and we couldn't tell if it was going to be a home run until it hit the scoreboard. It was a great sound.
Oh, wow.
And that just seemed to spark. I just got chills talking about it. That seemed to spark us big time. And we kind of went on from there.
That was a big turning point for the season?
I thought it was, yeah. I thought his Trevor's home run was huge for us. And we made and in that same game, we threw out a guy trying to score a run in the bottom of the 7th inning at the plate on a throw-out walkout at the plate. So that was pretty good.
That'll do it, definitely.
Yeah.
So you on your playoff run, you had a heck of a murderer's row that you had to go through. You went through Northfield and Heartland, Lakeview, Matawan, and then Woodhaven. So take us through some of those memories from some of those games.
Yeah, well, going into the playoffs, we were wondering how we're going to go with our pitching staff, and having Uli Fernsler coming back, he was unhealthy until like the first week of May. That's when he first started throwing. So before we got into the playoffs, we had the discussion, the captains, myself, and my pitching coach Dave Beaton, and we decided how we wanted to go about this. Not that Livonia Stevenson wasn't a good team; we knew they were capable of beating us. So we wanted to put Abler, probably our number 1 pitcher. I guess we have 3 number 1s, but he was the guy that was considered the number 1 guy. We started him for an inning or 2 to see how the game would go, and we got off to a big start. So the plan worked out good. We had an Abler there, and then we had Brendan Bennett pitch the game against Catholic Central, because Catholic Central had a lot of lefties. We thought that matchup would be perfect. Somebody that throws hard, somebody that's got a great slider, and that competes like he does. So that was our plan, and it worked out perfect. And that was probably his first complete game of the year, I think, or close to it. So that worked out great. And then so we got through that, and then we had to face Northville, the number 1 team in the state for most of the year. And that was a tremendous game. We just did a lot of things well. I think Abler started that game, and that was our plan to have Abler ready to throw that game because that was only, 4 days rest until that game. And he was, I think he was a little tired getting already in the fourth inning, so we took him out, and that's when Fernsler went in, and he just shut him down pretty good. We got a lot of scratch runs on bunts and stuff like that, and we beat him pretty good. I thought 6-2 or something like that. So it was a big win for us because, Northville's our crosstown rival, and, Johnny Kostreva and Bill Floor and those guys do a great job over there, and it was just a huge win for us, and that kind of, got us going into deeper into the playoffs. So.
Yeah, and then you had to turn around and go right against Heartland.
Then we had to go around against Heartland, who we split the season with, and
not a pancake.
No,
game
not
there.
at all. And they have they had two solid pitchers, and I can't remember the kid that we faced. I think it was somebody that we faced earlier in the year that beat us earlier in the year. So, and in that game, Bennett started that game again as well, and he got started. I think that's when he had to come out with an injury for his elbow, and that's what led to his Tommy John surgery this year. So he was out of that game in the third inning, and I still had Uli ready to go because he didn't throw that many against Northville. So Uli came in and did basically the same thing he did against. Scratched out a couple runs there and got the lead and put pressure on. I think we won that game 4-0. So Uli closed that game out without giving up a run, and it was a great shutout.
This episode of Two Average Daves is brought to you by our sponsor, Full Count Glove Relacing. Get your baseball glove back in the game. Don't take your glove to a shoe repair business or expect a nice kid at the sporting goods store to know how to relace it. Have a baseball guy fix your baseball glove. Reach out to Brian Spence at 248-217-3979. And for as little as $20, he'll get your glove back in the game. Visit the Full Count website at full-count-glove-relacing.com.
So, as a coach and a coaching staff, how did the kids handle their emotions as they're progressing through the playoffs there? Because they got to look around and they notice, we're in uncharted territory a little bit.
Well, I can tell you the one thing about our kids, they worked harder than anybody, and I never had a group of kids that were so calm and cool. You can never. I mean, I was more nervous than the kids. So they were just relaxed, and I never had a group of kids that loved each other so much, and I think that made a big difference. I mean, they were singing on the bus on the way to the championship game, singing country songs on it. And Charlie Richter, our assistant coach, says, "Coach, look at those guys." I said, "I know, I can't believe it." I just, it was just unbelievable how much they cared for each other, and it seemed like it got better as the season went along, and our team chemistry was about as good as it can get.
So then you got after going against Heartland, then you got to go through Lakeview, which has always been a historically good program as well. So any memories from that game?
Well, I didn't know too much about them other than looking at like Game Changer and stuff like that. And yeah, they had some great players. I know their catcher. They had two brothers on that team where I can't remember their names offhand, but they were two great players. I think one was a pitcher and one was a catcher. So one of those kind of, kids that had been playing together for how many years? 12 years or something like that. So they knew each other. So that team, that's basically all I knew about them. I knew that they had a great catcher that could throw people out, and I knew it was going to be a tough game. When we were down, I think 2-1 in the fourth inning, fourth or fifth, and then we just got some key hits. And I can remember Lawler had Thad Lawler had a perfect game that day. I think it was 4-4 and just came up with big hits and clutch situations, and that kind of propelled us to a big win that day.
And then it was on to Matawan, I think, is the next game.
Yeah, probably the best pitcher that we faced all year for sure was that Garza. He threw from every angle. He can throw every pitch from every angle. So that's what made it hard to detect what he was throwing. I knew he was going to be tough on our right-handers, and I thought our left-handers had to be really good that day, and we weren't that good that day. So it was 1-0 going in the last inning. I don't know if you guys heard about that final or not. Did you guys hear about that?
I did not.
1-0 in the last inning. We're down. This guy's just mowing us down for the most part for the game. I mean, we had a couple balls we hit right on the screws. I think Trevor Reed again hit a bomb to left center field. A guy ran down on the warning track, and there was a couple line outs here and there. But for most of the part, that guy just shut us down. He had a cutter going, he had a slider going, and he had probably the most fierce competitor I've ever coached against. He was just nasty. He had nasty stuff. But it was 1-0 in the last inning. We got a runner on. I think it might have been by a walk, and he went to second on a pass ball or something, or a wild pitch, and guy in second with 2 outs. We put Von Drozik in the pinch run for a fast runner, but Von Drozik's he's a little bit faster, so we put him in, and then let's see who was up at the time. Gosh, I should remember this. Chapsky. Alex Chapsky comes up, and he's not very he's a good hitter, but when you got a tough guy that throws good sliders and cutters like that, I knew the matchup wasn't that good, but he's faced him a couple times, so I had to leave him in there to hit. There wasn't even a second thought, so I left him in there to hit. He got down 1-2, took a check swing that some umpires could call him out on with 2 strikes. That would have been the ball game, right, with 2 outs. And the umpire said he didn't swing. So that was a good break on our part, even though he didn't swing, because I looked at that replay about 5 or 6 times now. But I can just remember in the dugout, my mom passed away in October of 22, and I can remember praying to her, get this one through for us, get us a base hit here. And for some reason, Garza threw him a fastball pretty much in the middle to the inside part of the plate, and he had a line drive up the middle, and we scored to tie it up. Then it went to extra innings, and we got a couple of scratch runs on some bunts and stuff like that, and we knocked Garza out, So then it wound up being Uli coming in to close the game out. So we won that game in 10 innings, 4-1.
And then you get on the bus. All the players are singing country songs.
Yeah,
all
we
the way
go
to
to
the championship game.
Yeah, well, we stayed a night, out there in Lansing, and stayed at a place, and the kids were calm, cool, and that night, and they were all, bed checked, and they were all in their beds and stuff. So then we woke up, had breakfast, and got on the bus, and these guys it was incredible how relaxed and calm they were. I think they knew it. I think they knew that the championship was going to be theirs, and they were confident. So.
Yep. So take me through the last couple outs there. The last.
The game pretty much was. We hit the ball right on the screws for most of the game. I thought we should have had a bigger lead than 8-1. But because I knew that team came from behind. I don't know if you guys know that, but Woodhaven came from behind from some big leads throughout the playoffs, like 4 or 5 run leads in the last inning. So I always knew that in the back of my mind. I told the kids, hey, these guys aren't going to stop, So we got to the last inning, and it got to be tough. Next thing you know, it's 8-3. They got a man on first, might have been first and third, and 1 out, and they decide to steal, and we throw them out at second base on a 2-2 count, I think it was. It could have been 3. I think it would have been 3-2. Anyways, we throw them out, and that was a huge out, and then the next guy struck out on a changeup, on a 3-2 changeup that we threw, and that was just a great feeling.
So once that third out was made, what was going through your mind? What were you thinking?
I just couldn't believe it. Just watching those kids celebrate like they celebrated. That's what I always wanted to see. I get enjoyment out of baseball watching those kids. The thrill of victory like that. I always enjoyed watching a kid hit his first home run in high school, and I always wind up getting tears in my eyes, But watching those guys, do the dog pile on the field, there was nothing better than that.
So now I looked at your roster for going into next season. Looks like you've got a young core that's returning. You got a lot of sophomores and juniors are going to move up to be juniors and seniors, and so take me through the outlook of this upcoming season. It doesn't look like you're going to take a drop off.
Well, we're not going to take too much of a drop off. Losing guys like Andrew Abler, and losing Bennett's arm, when he's not going to be able to pitch, he's going to be able to hit still. So that's good. We got our best hitter in our lineup still. We don't know if he's going to be able to play first base. I doubt it, but he was probably one of the best first basemen I've ever coached, And then losing guys like Chapsky and Brett Reed that was behind our plates. He was solid behind the plate. That's a big loss. That's only, 3 guys, plus Utah who moved back to Japan. So, but, the guy, we have 16 guys that were in that dugout for the state championship game. And a lot of those players were there for a reason. I knew that someday that they're going to be up, and it was a good experience for them. Not even though they didn't all play, they had a chance to pinch run because we used every pinch runner we could use. So, but I think that was a good experience for them, and we got a lot of returning players that have a lot of experience. And Uli's only a junior, and he's throwing better than I've ever seen him throw, and he's getting bigger and bigger. So Uli's going to be huge. We got guys like Johnny Aurelia, who's getting bigger and stronger and throwing in the mid-80s right now. And Gavin Presbilla, who's like 6'5", he's throwing in the mid-80s. And a bunch of young guys like Pressure. We got Pressure throwing in the low 80s. So we got some guys that are capable of having big seasons. I got a big problem because we got about 13 guys that can start, So I got to try to rotate them and keep everybody happy and let the best guy play in the playoffs when we get there, You got
to keep them happy and keep those parent emails from flowing in, right?
Yeah, you get the parent emails flowing in for sure.
You've got 500 wins. You've won a state championship. What keeps you going? Why do you keep doing this?
Again, it's just the love of the game. And I'm a competitor. I love to compete. And just watching kids succeed, like I said, is huge, And gosh, what else would I be doing in spring? I don't golf anymore because I gave it up when I started coaching. So, but I just love the game. I just love kids. I love the excitement. The community. Novites community has been awesome to me. The administration at Novites, I've had nothing to complain about, and I've been blessed for 25 varsity years and a few more years besides that,
So one of the things you said early on is when you were a kid, you were going around and there was always a baseball game going on. You after school pick up games and stuff like that. What I've noticed, and you can tell me if I'm wrong or not, but a lot of the kids don't do that. They don't play pickup games. They're not going and just playing wiffle ball.
Right.
Even kickball, they're not doing that. And then conversely, they're maybe not understanding the game as well because they're not playing it as much as they used to. That's what I've seen. Do you see that?
I see that as well. I think back in the day, our parents would let us ride our bikes for miles. Nowadays, they got their kids have their phones on them and they're tracking them where they're going. So I think, the kids being alone today is not the safest thing in the world to do, so I think that's part of it. The computers, obviously, the cell phones and all that stuff and all the distractions, I think that's part of it. There's more and more sports being played now, like lacrosse and all these other sports. I mean, I see a lot of that stuff in their backyards still, and kids doing stuff in their backyards, but yeah, nothing like back in the day when you used to go up to Wrigley grocery store. You guys probably not you're too young to remember Wrigley, and we used to put a square, a rectangle on a brick wall and use a rubber ball and call it fast pitch rubber ball. And then you'd hit one off the bowling alley across the street. That was a triple. You hit one on top of the roof. It was a home run. You hit one off the scoreboard before that. It was a double. So those were the fun things that we did growing up. But yeah, you're right. You don't see that nearly as much anymore.
So you've got a lot of players that are going to go on to the next level and play. So what are some of the things that we've touched on? A lot of recruiting items and some common misconceptions that are out there. So what, for players that want to go on to play in college baseball, what are your thoughts and what advice could you give them?
I still think, I always felt like as high school coaches, I always felt like it was our job to get them showcase ready. So they're throwing the ball right, fielding the ball right in the outfield when they're throwing the ball, fielding ground balls right. So when they go to the showcases, they look good. Because a lot of times they'll hit kids 6 ground balls and, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in a row. They're dead tired on the 6th ground ball, but they go to those showcases and they perform. I've seen some kids, get picked up going to showcases who never really played well for me, but they want to play in college baseball anyways because they had a good showcase. So I think going to showcases are huge. Find the best ones in the state, or out of state, and do that. I mean, obviously the video recruiting now with all the internet and all that helps out a lot. You guys probably know more than I do, be honest with you. But I think, it also helps to go deep in the playoffs. Look at Uli. I mean, people were all over him after that run. So
yeah, a lot more visibility at that level.
Yeah,
a lot more people come around.
And playing on those good summer teams always helps because the coaches are usually, able to see them in the summertime more than they are.
So, as a high school coach, what kind of responsibilities do you feel like, besides just getting them showcase ready, that you can help them through the season to move to the next level? Through contacts, do you help them get on those travel teams? Do you, what other things can you help them with?
Yeah, I mean, I used to do a lot more of that back in the day, but nowadays there's so many kids that they're going to those, like I said, those showcases, the PBR showcases, all that stuff. I think that, if they want a letter of recommendation, I'd be happy to do that for them. I do that for them as well, I don't know. Like I said, it's just getting them showcase prepared and ready. And I think that's the best way that I can, So we got a lot of guys, assistant coaches at Novi, like my son Garrett Green and Kevin Zach and Zach Byron, who played college baseball, and they know a lot of people. And and I also see a lot of coaches throughout the winter and the summer and stuff. And I'll give them names, stuff like that, and tell them to look at this guy. I know some pro scouts, I'll say, hey, I got a couple lefties right now that you'd be really interested in, So I guess that's about pretty much sums it up.
So do you think that the travel ball nowadays, the way it's come about, can coexist with high school baseball?
Yeah.
Or do you think there's just too much conflict with the way travel balls run versus the way high school?
Well, I mean, I always thought travel ball is more like to improve their game, right? So they can prepare for next year. I don't think it's really a conflict, just only when we're working out together in the wintertime, So I just, I always felt like when I was coaching for the Michigan Bulls for 7 years with Gallagher's over there, I wanted to make sure that the kids that were on my team went to their high school coaches first when they were training. So if I had practice on Saturday, I wanted to know if they have high school practices, that they were going to go there first, because that's what I believe in. That's your next season, high school sport. So.
This episode of Two Average Daves is brought to you by our sponsor, FullCountGloveRelacing.com. Get your glove back in the game. Don't take your glove to a nice kid at a sporting goods store who doesn't know a thing about glove relacing. Have a baseball guy fix your baseball glove. Reach out to Brian Spence, and it's for as little as $20, he will get your glove back in the game. It's full-count-glove-relacing.com. So what team are you on for MSBL for this coming season?
I'm on to the Motor City Firebirds, 60 and over.
So you've been with them for a number of years, though, right?
Yeah, I've been with the Firebirds for quite a while now. The director of the league, Mike Giuliano,
I'm going to try to get him.
One of my best friends. Oh yeah,
I'm going to try to get him.
Oh yeah, you'll like Mike. He's great. Yeah, he's one of my best friends, if not my best friend. And so it's nice to hang out with your best friend and play baseball and go to Arizona, play in a World Series out there. So, yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I mean, I've always enjoyed. It's kind of hard to get into it after your high school season. Like I need at least 2 weeks off of coaching before I get into it. Everybody asks you, where are you at? Where are you at? Well, hey, I need to step away from baseball for at least a week or two.
Yeah, decompress. Yeah,
right? Yeah. I don't want to just be at home for a week or two. So So it takes a while to get into it. Then when I start getting into it, it's yeah, that's why I play this game still, because I love it so much, and I love my teammates, So, and most of us all travel together on the same team out in Arizona. We try to get the best guys in the league to play together, and last 3 out of 4 years we finished in the final games and lost. We lost one game 18-17, if you can believe it. 9-inning games. 60-year-olds playing 9-inning games is tough on the body. So you got to go there with at least a 20-man roster.
Yeah. What I found though playing in the MSBL is that it helps me as a coach because I have to be out there doing it, and then I remember one of the first games I played, maybe 8-9 years ago, and there was a play at the plate, and I was watching the play. I was playing third base.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, there's a guy coming to third base. I'm not covering because I'm watching the play.
Right.
And
right.
then so it made me realize, the speed of the game. And,
Yeah.
and it helped me get that across to the players. So I'm sure it's the same for you, being able to take a lot of those things that you're on the field doing and then translate them over to your players.
I get a lot of umpires and players and stuff. If I do something that I'd be yelling at my high school kids for, I'll do something, like I'll flip a ball from first base and just kind of stand there and not follow the throw. And I can remember the umpire, Rico Maine, saying, "What were you doing? That's not even close to the technique you'd be teaching at high school." Then there was some guys always, on my team this year making state championship guy bobbling the ball like that, or So yeah, that's always the fun part.
Yeah. So I didn't realize that you were that close with Giuliano. He's been, the MSBL's been expanding, and I know that, like, even looking at the teams I play on, it's just always fun having the new guys that haven't played for a couple of years. They come back, and then they have a little bit of success, and you can see it. They're like 12-year-old kids again.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about, for those who are listening that don't know the MSBL, it's competitive hardball. It's not like a beer league. There's a lot of camaraderie, but
there's a lot of talent, out there still.
Yeah,
there's a lot of guys that
former minor leaguers, a lot of college players, former minor leaguers, former professional players.
Right.
I think Steve Avery has been in the league.
Steve Avery's, I've faced him quite several times.
Pat
I got one
Henkin,
bunt. I got one single off of Steve Avery. The next time I came up, he threw right between my ears.
There's been some other professionals too. Was it?
Oh yeah, there's been. I don't know if you guys remember Ike Blesson. He played for the Tigers back in the early '70s, I think. There's been a whole bunch of them. Denny McClain got into it in 1988, first year.
Really?
He was one of the original guys.
I didn't know that one.
The first year of the Detroit MSBL was 1988, and I got into it in 1989, so I didn't get to play against Denny McClain. That would have been something.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there's been so many. Too many. When you go out to Arizona, Jerry Royce has been in it. Ron LaFleur has been in it. I can go on and on. There's been several of them playing in the MSBL. And when you get out in Arizona, you talk about talent. Like Detroit, if you hit 350 in Detroit, you're going to hit 250 when you go out to Arizona. Except I didn't this year. I only hit 300 this year in my league, and I hit 600 out there. So
you went you bucked the trend.
I like better pitching. That's always my excuse. I can't hit the slow junk in this league. Yeah.
Oh man, well thank you. I think we hit on all of my questions here. Just personally, I want to thank you for, I know how it is coaching, and it's a labor of love, and it's a lot of work for not a lot of praise or money. So thank you for pouring into the kids like you do, and it's good to see that you had a lot of success, and appreciate you giving your time back and pouring into the
Well, I appreciate it. It's the love I have for the kids, and just watching them succeed. That's what keeps me going. And it's just been a great ride, and hopefully I got a few more years left in me.
Oh, you got plenty. I don't
Thanks,
see you,
Dave.
I don't see you slowing down.
Thank you.
Soon.
I know it's high school sports. It's even harder to coach than the summer, because when I coached the Bulls, it was like a relaxation thing, and I'm sure it was that way for the kids, because they're playing every day, they're practicing every day, they're competing every day and they're trying to do well for their schools and stuff like that. And then when they get into summer leagues, I think they just kind of work on their game and relax a little bit more and have fun.
Well, thank you, Coach, again, and we're looking forward to watching this season and wish you a lot of success this season.
I appreciate you guys having me. Thank you.
Thank you.